So before I get to the main topic, I would like to address one thing. Though I often speak on the necessity of understanding the universal psychological archetype of selfish maliciousness, which naturally leads to evil and the conspiracy to enslave through deception and the degradation of souls if one wishes to approach the truth of reality, it's important not to give more power to that construct than it actually has, but to see it accurately. And one of the most important things to understand in that context is that the greatest weapon of evil is ignorance, which manufactures consent towards destructive behaviors and obedience, and that there is far more ignorance in the world than there is evil. Therefore, in the act of helping others and awakening consciousness and reviving spiritual awareness, it's almost always better to focus first on alleviating ignorance and on ways that our beliefs lead us towards destructive behaviors, because helping people overcome false beliefs can severely minimize the power of maliciousness without them having to fully understand the nature of their own limited perceptions or the depth of the conspiracies that are out there to control humanity. If we're too aggressive about understanding maliciousness, we can become paranoid, we can make others paranoid, and our efforts to heal the world will generally be not as effective as if we simply help others find wisdom, acknowledge the potential fallibility of our beliefs, and choose healthier outlooks, philosophies, and behaviors. Now, on to the main topic. I would like to analyze the true nature of free will and to discuss certain inevitable cosmic rules and laws which are necessary to consensually follow if humanity wishes to create a utopia of free will. The first major point to examine is the wall between a system of total free will and a system of free will with the single rule to guarantee the free will of every individual, to prevent all souls from infringing upon the free will of others with their own. These are very different ideological systems, and you might find it interesting to consider that free will with a single law that enforces the preservation of individual free will actually tends to be much more free than total free will. Any system of total free will is ruled by desire and power, and almost invariably results in souls conniving to steal the power of others and enslave them, unless of course everybody in the system has a pure soul. Now, the earth at large is a system of total free will, and though there are efforts to establish the rule of the preservation of individual free will, those efforts are in direct contrast to current established systems which bind and control human activity and beliefs. The transmutation of this system of imposing free will to take free will away from others into a system which protects the free will of the individual is one of the major transmutations which we are currently working to bind upon the earth. This transmutation will take place first in the spiritual realm, and then make its way out into the common streams of material human thought and discussion. I will employ the forces of heaven with the blessing of God to manifest this shift in the following manner. All souls will be individually tested for their willingness to harm others with their free will, generally through dreams. All souls who choose of their own free will that they would not harm others for themselves when presented with temptation will be spiritually protected, while all souls who would harm others for themselves will not be protected. It is a very simple and rational karmic binding, and of course there will be layers and degrees depending on further variables and testing of the free will of the individual. The second layer of protection will be given if they are deemed able to discern a malicious attack on the free will of another and are willing to protect the other from this attack. This will connect them through a sort of psychic radar over the earth to monitor and protect those who pass the first test if they are suffering or targeted by malicious spirits. This will also encourage more vivid and united dreaming and help people to connect with fellow healers and creative spirits in both the digital and physical world. Now, there are several other barriers, walls, or laws which are related to free will, which will become necessary for humanity to understand and able to pursue the development of a true utopia on the earth. One such law is to no longer use free will to harm yourself. It is only rational, of course, that the more souls choose not to harm themselves, the closer they will be to utopia. But of course, self-harm comes in many ways which are not always intuitive. One may invoke more stress upon themselves than they should about things that they cannot control, rather than working on things they can. One may be harming their body by sleeping too little, and they need to readjust their schedule to ensure proper rest and healing, or maybe they're addicted to video games to such a degree that it is harming their life and future. There are a lot of ways to understand the construct of self-harm and self-care. Another barrier, which is actually one of the biggest ones between free will and utopia, is the right to lie to yourself. This is difficult because, of course, most people who lie to themselves don't fully understand that they're lying to themselves, and it's painful for them to come to that realization because they really like to think that they are correct. And the biggest lie that everyone tells themselves is that they know more than they actually do. That they are certainly correct about some things which are actually just beliefs based on probability and assumptions. And able to not lie to ourselves, we all have to recognize how finite and fallible our beliefs are so that we can refine them more rationally. Overcoming the will to lie to oneself is very similar to overcoming pride. And like I said, that's a really big one. And that's all I wish to examine for now. There are several more walls between free will and utopia. In one emanation of a final utopia, everyone once again is completely free, but there is no destruction or negativity in their will, and they naturally follow all the rules which allow them to exist in harmony, because they want to. Just below that utopia is a sub-utopia where everybody understands and consents to follow the rules which create harmony, because they understand the benefit of this harmony, even if they still truly kind of wish that they could get away with bending some of them. And it's also important to note that the utopia where souls are free but choose to act in a sacred manner is intimately linked with something very different, which is the choice of full service to God, in which a soul completely forfeits free will so that they can become a direct servant of God and be purified by God. A lot of humans might consider a servant to be a slave and thereby a universally negative construct, but this is not the case. All the angels are servants of God. To serve a truly noble master, especially to serve that which is most righteous and perfect in all of creation, is an incredibly beautiful thing. It's also a devotional sacrifice which we are able to choose to make while we are human, to dedicate ourselves completely to God's service. Though our perceptions will still be finite, and it will require spiritual work to accurately interpret God's will for us. Anyways, that's all for this video, and as always I pray that my words will help you to see things more clearly and to more easily make beneficial decisions in your life and the way that you connect with others.